Okay, so you're going to start with importing the body you're going to use. I recommend you use like a Second Life body, like the Legacy body, because for some reason the GTA body just doesn't work well with Retopoflow. When it's time to make your shirt, you're gonna go into Retopoflow and go from active. When you're making like a basic like top that you want to be symmetrical, and most meshes you want to be symmetrical, you'll just enable symmetry here, and then from there you can start building your mesh. So you'll see that I'm going to use the contours first to build the base up until about the armpit. For cleaner topology, you want to ensure that when you're doing your contours, you keep them to an equal spacing, meaning like they're the same size. You don't want one to be square and then another one to be rectangle. I always say this and I don't really follow it, but if you want a clean mesh, then yes, you should try to keep the faces as equal as possible when building something. Another thing that I recommend when you're making something and it goes over something round, whether it be like the kneecap, um, like the shoulder, their breast, or like the butt. The butt is different, but like the other three, I would split it into threes if you can. Um, I like to think of it as like the way like a buck opens. If you like want it to be really rounded, you need to split it into three. That way, when later on you apply your modifiers, it'll go in between those three and it should curve over the body like a little better than if you just made one huge square. Here I'm just building the rest of the shirt using the poly pen. So again, try to keep everything even in sizing of like the faces when you're building things out yourself. Um, Sometimes it's hard to keep it like equal vertically, but it's like try to keep it equal at least horizontally because you can always remesh it later. I'm like the ultimate remesher, so yeah, just focus on keeping it equal, and then I'll show you how to make the sleeves. Just some preemptive information. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to make it so what will eventually be the loop around like the from like the top of the torso down around into like under the armpit, the underarm. You want it to keep it like as circle as you can or as like rounded as you can. That way you can actually use the contour tool. Otherwise it won't let you use it. So make sure that for the like around the armpit and stuff, you get it as close to a circle as you can. So here we're trying to select the loop so we can start making like I guess like I mean the sleeve, right? The starting at the sleeve. If I had made a better circle when I double click it, it would select it all, but because I didn't, It didn't select it all, which is fine. So I can just shift click on what I want to select. And then after I select it, I can just go back into the contours. And then now we'll start building the sleeve, which is not difficult at all as long as you select your loop correctly. Here I deleted it using Control Z, because you should always be in front orthographic view when you are creating something. For some reason, I like to add my mirror modifier before I exit Retopoflow, but you don't have to take that step because when you exit Retopoflow, you can just add, like, apply the modifier. It's just something that I do habitually. You don't have to do it that way. Upon exiting from Retopoflow, you'll go back into your Blender view, your viewport, and you'll be automatically in the edit mode. You'll exit that and convert it to mesh. And then you can also shade smooth it. After that, we will head over to the modifiers tab and then we'll do what I like to call the subdivision sandwich. So you'll add the subdivision and then you'll add a shrink wrap and then you'll add another subdivision. I'm using the shrink wrap. Your target body is like the body you're using. And then I like to set it to 0.0015 and then I'll set it to be above the surface. You can mess around with it, but that is just what I do. After you set up the subdivision sandwich, you can convert to mesh and it'll automatically apply all your modifiers, or you can apply them one by one yourself in the modifier section. It's up to you on what works best for you, but yeah. After applying my modifiers, I like to enter the sculpt mode and I like to sculpt out my top to my body before I do anything else. I don't know if this is the right way. Mind you, I'm not telling you this is the way you have to do it. This is just how I do it. So I'll put G to grab and then I'll just sculpt it around the body. You can enable symmetry if you'd like, or you can do it without symmetry. It's the same thing. So yeah, just sculpt it around your body and make sure there's like no body clipping through the clothing. Here I'm remeshing it. Honestly, it was 4K verts. I didn't really need to remesh it, but just included it so you can see it. But if it's like that low poly and I mean, you're not adding anything on top of it, you don't need to remesh it. 4K is more than okay. Um, Once you do the multi-res, it probably would be sitting around like maybe 10, 11K or something, or I don't know, 20K, which is fine. I create for GTA. You should try to keep your verts 60K or lower. And I believe it's the same for Second Life. So if it's like low poly, don't worry about remeshing it. Yeah, I was just being stupid or whatever. For some reason, I've noticed in a couple other meshes that I'll get like this grayed out square. I don't know if it's a hole in the mesh because it doesn't seem like a hole. What I do is I will select it, in which I know it's not a hole. Like, I need to stop being dumb. It's not a hole because if I select the verts around that weird gray thing and I delete it, it deletes a face. And then I can select the verts again and then press F and it'll fill it and create a face. It goes away, so I don't know what it is. I used to think it was my normals being weird, but I still can't figure out what it is. So if any of you knows, please let me know. Just because I like knowing things and I'm nosy. I don't get why that happens. So yeah. Now we are going to mark our seams. That way we can UV unwrap and have the file we need in order to texture our model. So you just go around and mark them and unwrap them. You can do whatever works best for you. This is just what I do when it's like a simple shirt. Here I'm just rotating the UVs so they're both like facing the same way vertically. I think it's vertically. Sorry, I'm like my brain is fried. Anyways, and then you just make sure they're inside the square. Otherwise, anything outside of that square you won't be able to texture. Um, this is up to you how you do it. Um, if you're going to sell pre-mades to people, like let's say I make this shirt and I'm selling it to people, make sure you maybe look up UV unpacking. That way you have proper UV maps. Gives the people who are purchasing your file a smooth experience texturing. You don't want them to like bitch about things. So yeah. We are now going to enter the sculpting phase. You don't have to sculpt your clothing, but I like to. Most people like to. It adds nice detailing, so why not? In order to sculpt details on, you will need to apply a multi-resolution modifier, and then you will subdivide 5 times. After you subdivide 5 times, you're free to enter sculpt mode and sculpt creases on or do whatever. When it comes to sculpting, it's completely your stylistic choice. How much you add, how much you don't add, the size of what you add, how big, how small, how strong, how weak. Okay. I can't tell you to do it a certain way. It's your stylistic choice. You can also always do like fabric studies in order to see how fabric would look under different conditions. Like, example, if like a t-shirt is wet and sticking to someone's body, you can just look that up on the internet and practice like on a cube with the multi-res applied, things like that. There is some ground rules generally that you should follow. This is what was taught to me. So there is convex and concave creasing. So concave is what gives shadow, and convex is what gives like bumps and textures. So let's say you add a convex shape under like the breast where it assimilates fabric bunching. You should also pair that with some concave creases that are above and below to provide more depth and shadow. Or you can just do it below, depending on like your style choice. But certain parts of the body, you should always pair it in threes. Um, the strength and stuff is all up to the dealer's choice. But here you can see an example of what I'm doing when I'm sculpting. I'm also a beginner. I'm making this video mostly because I think I learn better when I am also trying to teach someone else due to the verbalization. So here you can see what I'm doing. You'll apply all the creases you want, or you can work by section, but I like to add everything, and then afterwards we will smoothen it out a little bit and you'll see how that looks after. The smoothing, like the intensity and amount, is up to you. Generally speaking, you should smooth as much as you can. Like even on the like, how do I explain it? I mean, when you see the texturing part, you'll see why. But just make sure you smooth out as much as you can while still maintaining the details. You don't want to like get rid of like everything you just did. Typically, when I'm smoothing out the wrinkles, when it's going inwards towards the torso, I try to like go at an angle. That way, it's not like a straight up and down, more like a 45-degree angle. That way, you keep it looking a little bit more natural and following the lines of like the body contours rather than just a stark like stop of a crease. I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe I'm just talking out of my butt. Once we are done with all the creasing, smoothing, and everything, you will want to export your model. Before exporting, make sure that you already unwrapped it and you assigned one material, and just leave it white. And you can name it like whatever your clothing is. Like, let's say that for this shirt I would have named it top, but I forgot to assign a material. However, it's okay. So because we applied the multi-resolution modifier, the current object we have is too high poly, meaning it has too many vertices. um, we will use this, but not in the way you think. We will export this, and please make sure to label your meshes that you export. So when we have the multi-res at its full potential, full power, you're going to export it and make sure you tag it as a high poly. So I place HP in front of it, so I know this is my high poly mesh that I will use to bake shadows onto my low poly mesh. So after we export our high poly mesh, we will go and we will drop the multi-res to 1. This will make it low poly, hopefully, and then you can export that one and label it low poly. So like for this one, I did high poly top and then low poly top. And then, yeah, so from here, you'll need to go into Substance, and that's a whole other situation. I'll also upload a video on that. But yeah, so after this, you're pretty much done. However, make sure you save your blend file in case you need to go back and do something for whatever reason. You should always be saving your files. I used to create stuff and I would just delete it and not do anything with it. Just always save your files for future use. You never know if you might lose something and need to go back to the original file.